Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about Vice President and current Democratic nominee Kamala Harris doing an interview with Oprah Winfrey, a sort of a town hall with a bunch of different various celebrities. And the reason we want to talk about this is despite the fact that she continues to go into friendly environment after friendly environment, Kamala Harris is incapable of answering basic questions like a normal person, and her answers are somehow getting worse because she just regurgitates the same talking points over and over again, but she's now doing it slower than she did before. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Now look, Oprah Winfrey, obviously a huge celebrity, and in the Democratic primary in 2008, when she had Barack Obama on, this might have been the thing to push a certain amount of voters to back him rather than Hillary Clinton. That being said, her influence is largely within the Democratic Party, and now that she's been moved off of network television to her own thing, which again, congratulations to her, she earned it, she built it, and all of that, I don't believe her influence is as strong with the general population. But more importantly, not even Oprah Winfrey can make Kamala Harris charismatic and make her answer questions, despite the fact that she has gone out of her way to try to bail her out of certain horrible answers, like we saw with the immigration question that VP Harris was asked.
Hello.
In our audience.
Hello, Madam Vice President.
You live in Michigan.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't love saying hello, Madam Vice President.
I do.
What's your question? It's an immigration question.
Question for you is, when you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So this guy right here wants specific answers to the question of what Kamala Harris is going to do in order to secure the border. And considering she is the border czar, I will also add it would be nice if she actually gave us an answer to why she didn't do this, why she ignored the problem for 3.5 years, pretended it didn't exist, and why she's blaming everything on a border bill that was put up 3.5 years later, that of course involved more agents to process additional migrants rather than to keep people out.
So it's a wonderful and important question. My background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people.
So Kamala ends up leading off with the fact that she was a prosecutor in a border state, which of course is the state of California, and she's talking about being the district attorney for San Francisco and of course the attorney general, and she's like, I prosecuted transnational gangs and whatnot and all of that. And again, this has nothing to do with the question at hand, and as a person in California politics, this is one of the states that would fight against other states that actually wanted to criminalize border crossings on a local level, on a statewide level, due to the fact that the federal government wouldn't enforce the law. So no, this is not evidence that you would actually be good at doing something at the border, but it's nice for you to ramble on this particular answer without actually addressing the task at hand.
Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. And let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief, which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl. And I'm looking at people from all over the country here, so I don't need to tell the folks who are watching this what fentanyl has done to families, to kids in our country, and the need to take seriously stemming the flow coming into our country and addressing that extraordinary and tragic issue in terms of its effect. The bill would have allowed us to have more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. And it would have been part of the solution. And Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Trump bad.
And he has
So again, we get the talking point about Trump killing this particular border bill and how that is all evil orange man's fault because he'd rather run on a problem than fix a problem. But the fact of the matter is, they could have done something about the border in the 3.5 years that led up to this. They denied that it was a problem until it impacted them politically. And again, there were certain poison pills in this particular bill that would admit a bunch more people, gave power to the president to maybe declare an emergency about border crossings when he probably wouldn't do so. And on top of that, Joe Biden post this ended up taking executive action, which the president can do around issues like the border. So he didn't need a bill for 3.5 years to actually attempt to address the issue, yet they just ignored it. And the reason why they ignored it is that it was a campaign promise to let these people surge to the border.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
Never forget that clip, because Joe Biden said that's who we are. We need to let these people come in. On top of that, Kamala Harris wanted to defund ICE. She wanted to make it not a criminal offense to enter the United States of America illegally and all these different various things. So she was worse than Joe Biden on the campaign. And we end up finding out that as borders are, she just let everyone and anyone into this country. So no, this doesn't answer the question of how you're going to secure the border. And what's painfully sad about the end of this exchange is that she doesn't even remember the question after she regurgitates her talking points, as shown to us by Oprah stepping in order to defend her.
Put his personal political security before border security.
Trump bad.
Because understand, even in the intervening months, what that bill would have done to give support to folks who care about this issue. And this again gets to the point about what does leadership really look like? And is it about you or is it about the people? Right. Is it about running on problems or fixing problems?
Trump bad.
My work and my career has always been about saying, let's fix problems. Let's address the needs, because we know it's within our capacity to do that.
So to answer Justin's question, now that bill has gone and hasn't passed, will you reintroduce that?
Yeah, so after the Kamala bot 2000 ends up breaking and starts repeating the problem, running on a problem rather than fixing it, Oprah Winfrey bails her out by saying, oh, so you'll sign that bill thing, right? That's your policy, that's your answer to the question, because Kamala forgot where she was, forgot that she was answering a question about what she would do, because all she could actually say was evil orange man bad, or as Anna Kasparian would say, Trump bad.
Simply hearing Trump bad over and over again doesn't work for them.
So, Madam Vice President, we are, like many, many young Americans, just experiencing a very high cost of living. We ended up giving up our apartment, moving in with our parents, who were so gracious to take us in for over a year so that we could save money and ultimately buy a home, because that's what we thought the American dream was, to get married and buy a home and have a baby. And now here we are, and our mortgage is incredibly higher than what we thought it would be. And my sister and our brother-in-law are living with us right now so that they can hopefully one day do the same. And while it's beneficial for us because they help us pay off some of our mortgage, it's also beneficial for them because they can save on cheaper rent. But we really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that. And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries. So that's why I'm taking on, for example, price gouging. Which is when, most companies and corporations are good, but for those bad ones, they take advantage of people, especially during a pandemic or extreme weather, and they end up jacking up prices, and there needs to be accountability and consequence for that.
So again, we get another word salad for Kamala Harris, and this, of course, was in response to a question about costs, about groceries, and all of that. And honestly, this is just what you would expect from her, because if she had a plan to actually reduce grocery costs, then she would actually implement that plan or push for it to to be implemented as vice president. Her whole entire campaign is a complete and utter facade. And by the way, this allegation that we're dealing with price gouging from the grocers is nonsense. Even the Federal Reserve has made the point that inflation is not caused by corporate price gouging, and using the corporate profits line as a mechanism in order to prove that is flawed repeatedly. I will link that Federal Reserve study in the description of this video. It completely debunks this idiotic talking point, but you know, when politicians get desperate, when inflation starts ramping up due to their policies, the number one go-to move throughout all of history is to blame people charging the prices, because most people don't realize the effects of inflation until they actually try to buy something, and it's easy to blame the merchants rather than blame the politicians. And obviously, if you're a politician, that arrangement is preferable. But I also want to talk about Kamala Harris's housing thing, which we touched on a million times on this channel, but I just want to hit that one more time.
But it's also about dealing with what we need to do around home ownership, right? So as someone mentioned during this film, look, I grew up a child of a mother who worked very hard. She raised me and my sister, and she saved up, and by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy a home. And we grew up actually for a long time in an apartment on top of a child care center that was owned by the woman we called our second mother, because she helped my mother raise us. And she was a small business owner, Miss Shelton. So I'll bring all this together to tell you, the way I think about it is, one, when people work hard and have a dream of buying a home, we should give you the opportunity to be able to do that, which is why part of my plan is for first-time homeowners, buyers, to have a $25,000 down payment assistance to buy your first home. Because people just need to be able to get their foot in the door, and then you'll do the hard work.
Now look, I've made it 100% clear for everybody out there in the audience that this is not something that is going to work. It's not something that is going to happen. And Kamala Harris saying that she wants to give $25,000 in down payment assistance is an absolute disaster for the housing market. That is going to juice demand, which will raise prices. Now, a lot of people say it will raise prices by at least $25,000, but the fact of the matter is, it could likely raise prices by more than $25,000 because you're incentivizing people who would normally rent to get into the housing market. But one of the things that I often highlight is her ridiculous plan to build 3 million houses over her 4-year term through heavily subsidizing builders, which you shouldn't have to do considering prices are up, and when prices are up, more people are already incentivized to build. But somebody in the comments actually pointed something out to me that was absolutely amazing, and that is that 3 million home goal. One of the other reasons why you know it's absolute nonsense is because we already build more than 3 million homes over a 4-year time period. So look, last year was a bit of an outlier in that we built 1.4 million homes in the year 2023 in this country. However, the average, it appears, that we have been building in this nation is 1 million homes. It doesn't take a mathematical genius to understand that if you're already building 1 million homes per year, then you would get to 4 million at the end of a 4-year term. And this is what Kamala Harris is trying to run on. She's going to say, I'm doing 3 million, even though the country does 4 million. So if she does absolutely nothing in this department, she could say that this campaign promise is a success. But unfortunately, she's also going to toss in a bunch of subsidies, a bunch of taxpayer dollars to these developers to run up the cost of these particular homes on the taxpayer. So we're going to end up net worse if we get her 3 million homes. And there's nobody ever calling her out on this. Somebody in the comments of one of my videos told me to look into this, and I give them credit for this. Thank you so much, because in reality, in actuality, this plan is also nonsense. So we're going to bid up the price of homes according to Kamala Harris's own numbers with a $25,000 down payment assistance credit. And on top of that, we're going to shave off 1 million homes in order to meet her goal of building 3 million new homes over the course of a 4-year term. Because again, we're already building in and around 1 million homes per year in this nation on average, even though last year it was 1.4 million. Now look, I've said this before and I'll say it again, this should be surprising to no one. Kamala Harris is not only a California Democrat, but she's a San Francisco Democrat. And in California, they have all these different rules and regulations that prevent them from being able to build homes. Now, you guys know I enjoy showing you this chart of Los Angeles, which shows the price of homes going up dramatically, while at the same time on this other chart, we end up seeing the number of home building permits drop dramatically because, of course, regulations and all sorts of other policies in the state of California, Kamala Harris's home state, end up disincentivizing and breaking the market in this way. And I like to compare and contrast that to Nashville's housing market, which is an in-demand growing city, and how home building permits almost track perfectly with demand, with increases in price. This is a normal market. This is what we need, what we got over in Nashville, and this is a highly abnormal market. And Kamala Harris's policies are the exact same policies that created California's housing disaster, just on a federal scale if she gets elected. Now you might be saying, Sean, you know what? You're just taking two outlier cities, Nashville versus Los Angeles, and that's not really fair. And sure, that would be true if this wasn't indicative of overall trends. In fact, the South, in the month of February of 2024, according to the census data that I'm using, issued permits for 64,913 units. This significantly outpaced the number of units authorized in the West, 25,601, the Northeast, 14,317, and the Midwest, which was 14,294. And not only does the South beat all of them individually, it beats all of them combined. And no, you didn't mishear me. The less regulated, more affordable South builds more housing units per month than every other part of the country combined. All of them put together are less than the South. Now, a lot of people have also talked about the fact that Kamala Harris is maintaining this fiction that she is a gun owner and she's not going to take anybody's guns, while at the same time proposing a gun ban.
Some people have been pushing a really false choice to suggest you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and I'm in favor of assault weapons bans, universal background checks, red flag laws. And these are just common sense. These are just common sense.
I thought it was so powerful at the convention when you said you have guns. No, at the debate.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that. But my staff will deal with that later.
Yeah. But you have been a gun owner for a while.
Yes, I have.
What's even more funny in this particular setting is that she said, oh, if you break into her house, she's going to shoot you. Kamala's a badass, and she's going to blow you away if you break into her home. Kamala Harris has Secret Service protection. She's not going to shoot anyone. I doubt that she's a gun owner. She is in favor of gun bans, and she's in favor of them because she gets protection. She might even get to own a gun post her gun ban, but you, the citizens, have to fend for yourself. And by the way, in a perfectly obvious self-defense scenario, aka the Kyle Rittenhouse case, when he was found not guilty because the overwhelming video evidence had the shootings from start to finish and proved out beyond any shadow of a doubt that he defended himself, Kamala Harris called this verdict an egregious problem in our nation and still argues that this person is guilty. So if you defend yourself on video, it's caught on multiple angles, it's completely unambiguous. Kamala Harris wants you to be put in jail. In fact, she wants you to be put in jail if you have a so-called assault weapon, because that's what an assault weapons ban is. Then that's the rules for you. But for her, she gets to have her guns and her Secret Service protection, and she gets to lie to your face and say, I'm not in favor of a gun ban, as she proposes a gun ban. And remember, when she ran on her own campaign back in the day, she was far more aggressive in that she was pushing for mandatory gun buyback.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons? And whether or not you do, how does that idea not go against fundamentally the Second Amendment?
Yeah, great question. I do believe that we need to do buybacks, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let's be clear about what assault weapons are. They have been designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. They are weapons of war with no place on the streets of a civil society. I've seen assault weapons kill babies and police officers. So one, I'll tell you, when elected president, if the United States Congress continues to fail to have the courage to do something about this, I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country. But we still have to deal with the over 2 million assault weapons that are currently in the streets of America. Behaviors among everybody in the community, and just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs.
Have you heard from...
But of course, since we're dealing with the anointing of Kamala Harris without a single primary vote as the Democratic nominee and hopefully the next president in these people's minds, there's no follow-up question. There is no asking her about her record. There's no scrutiny because Kamala Harris is beyond scrutiny, and everyone knows that if you asked her a question, she would crumble immediately. Even in these softball interviews, she embarrasses herself time and time again. It gives us insane word salads like this one.
We love our country. I love our country. I know we all do. That's why everybody's here right now. We love our country. We take pride in the privilege of being American. And this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are.
And it's just embarrassing, and repeatedly so. And again, this is all based on the facade that she is this candidate of joy and all of that, when in reality, in actuality, Kamala Harris hates the American people. She hates ordinary folks. Remember, she ran a very nasty campaign as a Democratic candidate that castigated the American population as evil, white, and racist. And no matter how many times she says today that she's all about what brings us together rather than what separates us, she, on the debate stage, was painting Joe Biden, the guy that she currently serves under, as an evil white racist, and you should never forget it. That's who she's going to be when she comes into office. It doesn't matter that she's trying to do the Obama thing, where she never talks about race, yet all of her surrogates attack you as evil white racist and sexist if you decide to come out against her. So yeah, this Oprah Winfrey interview, not very good, embarrassing, just celebrity worship of Kamala Harris, but it's what we can expect from the Democratic Party. Always lean into the elites, the celebrities, and all of that. Get all of those endorsements while you shaft people on the other side. And by the way, we know that ordinary people and even union members are starting to turn on Harris, and one of the perfect examples of that is the Teamsters in their own vote, saying that they prefer Trump at a 60 to under 40 clip for Harris, and it's absolutely embarrassing. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Kamala Harris embarrassing herself on Oprah. Till next time.